Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama review. In today's review we're going to be travelling back in time with the 4th Doctor, Leela and Margaret Hopwood in the latest series of adventures from the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 12 entitled New Frontiers. This box set is available to order now via the official Big Finish website in both physical CD and digital download formats. It can also be purchased as a part of a bundle alongside the other Series 12 release coming later this year, entitled Angels and Demons. Now, something of which to note is that due to the way the 4th Doctor Adventures is produced being a long time in advance, in fact this box set was initially recorded way back in 2018, it is worth noting that you can in fact purchase both of the stories within this box set singly. However, this is exclusively within the download format. If you want the physical edition, you have to purchase both of them together. So firstly, for the sake of continuity, Margaret Hopwood was a character that was originally introduced within the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 11 first box set in an episode entitled The Ravencliff Witch, as written by David Llewellyn. Basically, we see the 4th Doctor within that box set travelling solo, hence why the box set is entitled Solo, and we see Margaret becoming a temporary companion for that story, and within the opening episode of this set, we see the 4th Doctor travelling back and picking her up and simply asking, do you want to go on a few adventures? Now, I think contextually you don't really need to have listened to The Ravencliff Witch in order to enjoy New Frontiers, but what I will say is I do think listening to that story will improve your listening experience, simply because within that episode we get a rather clear presentation of the dynamic between the 4th Doctor and Margaret, which is something that isn't as present within this box set, which is rather unusual given that it is her proper debut within the TARDIS for the first time. However, what I will note is listening to The Ravencliff Witch isn't essential by any means. I think it mainly benefits the context of these adventures. There's no plot arcs or anything like that ties the episodes together. All you need to know is Margaret is an older woman. She lives in a little village called Ravencliff, and she is someone who likes to create art in her spare time. So throughout this review, we are going to be taking a look at two 4-part stories, the first of which is Ice Heist, as written by Guy Adams, and the second episode is Antilia the Lost, as written by Phil Mulrine. The 4th Doctor Adventures Series 12, entitled New Frontiers, starts with a 4-part story called Ice Heist, seeing the return of both the Ice Warriors, but also Margaret Hopwood. The Doctor thinks Margaret would like to see an art gallery in space, so simply pops back into her life to offer her a trip in space and time. It's a rather thoughtful gesture from the 4th Doctor, however Leela is a little bit wary, as his true intentions may not have the desired effect. The 4th Doctor and Leela in this story are very close. I think Guy Adams closely replicates the Time Lord and Savage relationship well. So personally, I'm still placing this story somewhat early on in their travels, with the Doctor acting as a teacher, but Leela is still very hands-on. I think Guy Adams writes the 4th Doctor well in particular, with running themes present within his jokes, capturing Tom's loud personality and the 4th Doctor's wacky nature. Margaret is certainly the more intriguing of the companions within this story, simply because she's still learning the ropes. I do like how this snowy alien world is all very overwhelming for her, but after a while she takes it in her stride. She's someone who's got a taste of adventure from the Doctor's previous visit and hasn't quite seen life the same way since. The fact that she is an older woman is also lovely. She's already experienced what she sees as her life, but now she's looking for something new. Perhaps at this stage, life can get quiet or lonely. She's had her horizons widened by this endless possibility of adventure. I wouldn't exactly say it's as strong as opening as the likes of Evelyn Smythe, who captured my heart basically instantly, but I'm looking forward to delving into her character more. For an opening story, I did think it would have been nice to maybe see less time of Margaret being split off from the 4th Doctor, but countering this, spending her time with Leela allowed for some nice scenes to perhaps showcase what Leela has learnt so far on her travels with the Doctor. I'm merely saying this because I know the relationship that is presented within the Ravencliff Witch is really nice and warm, and I was going into this box set kind of expecting more of that. The Ice Warriors are usually quite battle-orientated. This story, Guy Adams flips that, turning the Ice Warriors into art thieves. The whole art theme is nicely incorporated into Margaret's occupation, and I would have liked to maybe see this used a little bit more. From a story side of things, I thought it was quite interesting seeing the various species interact. It almost put me in the mindset of the early new series stories, the likes of The End of the World. The story evokes discussion on racism in space due to the blend of many species which have congregated at the art gallery. The humans focus on the Martians' warrior battle heritage, labelling them as aggressive, whilst also not acknowledging that their species is more than merely a battle species and they have their own culture and things that they like to do, such as create pieces of art, as we see throughout this story. There is that presentation of human closed-mindedness, which I found quite interesting to explore. And let's face it, is the sad truth if humans did ever expand out into space and interact with alien life. Corporations also got quite an intriguing commentary which put me in the mindset of, funnily enough, the other Fourth Doctor and Leela story from TV being the Sunmakers. The corporation itself is embodied through the character of Allardyce Benexa, who leads the gallery. She has a complete lack of care for anything which doesn't directly affect herself, usually delegating roles to the likes of Head of Security being Stringer, who has lots of brilliant scenes with the Fourth Doctor in the midpoint of the story. He almost becomes one of the episode's temporary companions, excellently portrayed by Robert Whitelock. There is also that element of mystery, what is the gallery hiding, which holds the heist together. It's rather similar to some new series stories where you get the impression that everyone who works for the company is just a part of one big plan, led by a select few at the very top. They are all a part of one big game. Across the 4 parts, I think the story flows well, leading into an exploration of the planet's ice caves within the later half of the story, but I do think I was expecting a few more revelations to keep the story and its excitement going, but overall it's definitely the more action-packed of the 2 episodes within this set. It's lovely to see Big Finish continuing to use the talents from new series Doctor Who, such as Adele Lintz, the female Ice Warrior who within this story goes by the name of Kaltak, who also appeared within the new series episode The Empress of Mars. I really do love her performance within Part 1 in particular, and I wish that we got to see more from her within the later parts of this episode. One word that I think summarises my experience with the Fourth Doctor adventures so far is easy. If you like the Fourth Doctor era, I think these stories are a warm comfort blanket, easy adventures that don't quite require your complete focus to appreciate, and perhaps because of this, the stories lack in those more out there experimental type of stories that we've come to expect from some of Big Finish's other ranges. I think without a doubt this is a more traditional episode of classic series Doctor Who, with a subtle blend of New Who themes incorporated in there as well. The second 4-parter of the set is Antillia the Lost, as written by Phil Mulrine. Antillia is a constructed habitation once occupied by humans. However, one day, Antillia simply vanished, and a mission has been set up by the corporation to find it. Once more, we see the Fourth Doctor, Leela and Margaret venture to another rather science fiction landscape. There is a lovely moment in the later half of this story, with Margaret smiling to herself, acknowledging the absurdity of how much her life has changed in a matter of mere days. 1 minute she was at Ravencliff, and now she's on this far-off alien world that was technically lost to the entirety of civilization. I think that Margaret is most certainly a very human character, and she definitely contributes something to this story that feels very good in spirit, in particular when communicating with the inhabitants of Antillia. The bulk of the narrative sees the TARDIS team divided, the Doctor in the heart of the city dealing with the absence of the occupants, and rumours of unusual scientific experiments starting to surface, and the representatives of the corporation, being Krask, clearly hiding something. Once more, however, Leela and Margaret are split from the Doctor, which I did find a shame, particularly in Margaret's case, given this episode does allow them to experience the adventure through their own eyes, and it does allow the narrative to be driven forward, such as meeting the occupants of the planet from the missing city. This does allow the listener to learn about the horror which has unfolded on Antillia, whilst the Doctor kind of deals with the more technobabble aspect of things, but I think it would have been more beneficial to give Margaret more scenes with the Doctor herself, simply to explore that dynamic a little bit more. In a way, both stories seem to show Margaret as a companion to Leela rather than the Doctor. She seems to be the one guiding her throughout her first adventures in space and time. Who knows? That is perhaps the intention. And once again, that said, from listening to the Ravencliff Witch, I know Margaret and the Doctor's dynamic is really nice, so I do want to see more of it. And that is really why I recommend listening to that release prior to this set. I think especially when you compare episodes the likes of this to new series Doctor Who, I think the companions' first ever adventures into space and time is often a very personal one because you have the Doctor and the companion remaining rather close together whilst the Doctor shows that companion the ropes. Within this story, we just have the Doctor continuously divided from them, which is odd given that he has gone to Margaret himself to ask if she wants to go on an adventure, and then he's kind of just left her to her own devices with Leela. I do rather like having the idea of this lost society in space. It's a bit like Atlantis, and I think the sciencey side of things within this episode, such as the pocket dimension, is relatively easy to understand, and the plot itself is another accessible listen, although I'd argue it's slightly slower in pace compared to the first story. It has a less prominent foe like the Ice Warriors to ramp up the action, but instead presents a series of obstacles for the TARDIS team and the mission ship of the Blade to overcome. The bulk of the first half of the story is an exploration of the landscape, with the journalist Markway and Krask in particular being quite good highlights, and definitely representing the team that has been sent to kind of figure out this unusual mystery. And I do also really like the character of Hari, although I can't really say too much about them without spoiling the episodes. You'll need to listen to find out more for yourself. I think if you're looking for some easy traditional classic Doctor Who adventures, New Frontiers is definitely for you. As always, it's nice to recapture that bond between the Fourth Doctor and Leela. Both Louise and Tom contribute their usual warm, authentic performances. Nerys Hughes also has so much potential as Margaret Hopwood. I think that she provides a very earthly kindness to this TARDIS team, although I really do hope the next box set gives her a little bit more of the spotlight. Without knowing too much about the second set within this series, I do know that the format is in fact 4 one-hour stories, and perhaps splitting up the two-parters across volumes 1 and volumes 2, seeing 2 of the one-parters being included within New Frontiers as opposed to having 2 4-parters within this box set, may have allowed for more variety and in turn more time for Margaret to shine due to that variety in storytelling. I think if you are more familiar with the Fourth Doctor range already, then you will know what to expect from this one. 2 very easy stories which remind the listener of 70s Who, accompanied by nostalgic performances from the 2 main protagonists, although perhaps not as experimental and unique as some of the other series that Big Finish produce. So there we have it, that is my review of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 12 entitled New Frontiers. Overall a nice set of stories, although not 100% brand new. It is very traditional Doctor Who, and if that is something that floats your boat, then I most certainly recommend this set. So thank you very much for watching this review, I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular Big Finish reviews. Have a nice day, I shall see you all next time.